A few months ago, my friend Kim was impersonated. On X, someone started posting from an account with her photo, her name, her bio. The thing was, Kim used to have an account on X, but she had deleted it.
I started panicking because I thought that they have my password.
It turned out that someone had taken Kim's old handle and made a new account with it. Pretty quickly, she got it shut down. But the whole thing left her unsettled about the safety of her accounts and passwords. So she started changing all of her passwords and deleting any account she didn't need. She worked her way down the list, deleting one account after another.
So I was going through the list, and I get down to David's Bridal.
David's Bridal is a major retailer of wedding dresses, and it had been a few years since Kim's wedding, so she figured she didn't need the account anymore.
And I go to delete it, and there's no way to do it.
While a lot of other sites have a button to delete an account, David's Bridal didn't have anything like that. So she called customer service.
And the first girl I get is like, "Oh, I can't do that." I was like, "What do you mean you can't do that? Surely there's just a delete button." And she's like, "No, I can't do that from my end."
So later, she called again.
Get through to this woman who's like, "Yeah, I can delete it for you." And I was like, "Oh my God, amazing." So she's like, "Oh, no, I can't."
So finally, for some reason, she texted me.
It's not ruining my life at all. I genuinely, if I didn't go to delete this, I would have never thought about this again. I just think it's so weird that I can't get rid of this dumb account.
I wanted to try to help Kim out. And I want to show you what happened when I went down that road. Because along the way, I wound up getting a crash course in what really happens when we give a company our information. So this is the story of me trying to answer a simple question. Can we delete Kim's account on David's Bridal? David's Bridal is a huge company. It's the biggest bridal store in the US with hundreds of locations. It claims to sell 1 in every 4 wedding dresses in the United States. And part of why Kim has a David's Bridal account with so much information on it is because of how shopping there works. On David's Bridal, after you add a dress to your bag, the next option isn't check out, it's book appointment.
So you have to create an account with your supposed wedding date and your email and all that stuff in order to set that appointment. So that's why they have it in the first place.
You can buy something without an appointment, but appointments, which require a name, email, and phone number to book, are built into the process. So what does happen when you try to delete the information you gave them? When Kim and I logged on, there was indeed no delete button. But there were some things we could do. We could change the name, address, and phone number to phony information, but we couldn't change the email. In the account settings, there wasn't a way to delete the account, but there was a phone number. And over the phone, a representative confirmed that calling was the only way to delete an account.
If I'm not mistaken, if you are going to try that on your end, there's no option to delete it. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah, not on the website.
Yeah. So we are the only one who can delete the account of the customer.
So they tried to delete it on their end.
I just want to let you know that I'm working on it now for deleting for this account.
And a few minutes later, they told me it worked.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that we successfully deleted the account.
Great. And so if I tried to sign in, that wouldn't work anymore?
Yes.
They were right. The account seemed deleted. Well, okay. I mean, this seems like it works. I just texted Kim. I think I did it. I finally got around to calling them and then just did it over the phone. She seems happy about that. I guess this is always a possibility, right? We can make a few phone calls and get to the bottom of it. Well, okay. This is going to be a short video. A few days later, I was about to call Kim to wrap things up. But first, just to double check, I tried logging in again. This does not look like a deleted account to me. When I'm deep in the middle of stories like this one, I'm clicking on links like there's no tomorrow. And that can be risky business. On one hand, I want to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. But on the other hand, not all links are safe. The internet is full of scams and malware and malicious ads, all just a click away. When you're browsing, you need someone to watch your back. And for me, for years now, that someone has been NordVPN. They're the sponsor of this video, and they're offering an exclusive deal for Tunnel Vision viewers at nordvpn.com/tunnelvision. You probably know NordVPN for being a VPN service, but they do much more than that now. It's got a built-in antivirus that intercepts phishing links and scam websites and malicious downloads before they become your problem. It also filters scam calls, blocks ads and trackers, and bundles it all into one single app and subscription. I've been using it, and it's genuinely the kind of product that you set up once and then stop thinking about. It's kind of the whole point. Go to nordvpn.com/tunnelvision to get a huge discount plus 4 additional months free. I'll leave the link in the description. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no reason not to try it. Okay, that's it. Let's get back to trying to delete Kim's account on David's Bridal.
Weird errors like this kept happening, where it briefly seemed like the account was deleted.
Okay.
And then it just came back. So I called David's Bridal again, and they told me that the account was deleted.
There's no record anymore under that email address.
Really?
Yes, 110%. It's already deleted.
They said they'd file a report to double check.
Within 3 to 7 business days, it will not gonna work it's already it will gonna be permanently deleted. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay.
But a week later, the account was still there.
Hey, okay, quick update. I have emailed the kind of specific David's Bridal email for removing data, and that email bounced. I've emailed customer support. I've emailed their press office, but none of these things so far have seemed to make any difference with getting the account deleted. This was frustrating, but as I kept reading, I learned that this phenomenon is relatively common. Plenty of sites make starting an account easy and deleting it intentionally difficult. This kind of deceptive design is nicknamed a roach motel after the brand of insect traps. Easy to check in, hard to check out. Typically, this is so that you keep paying a subscription. But David's Bridal isn't a subscription. And this design didn't necessarily feel deceptive. It just felt like nothing was happening. Was David's Bridal claiming to be deleting this account and then just not doing anything? Or was something else going on?
Unless they're being legally compelled to delete your data, it can be very hard to know if they're actually following through on an account deletion request.
There's a million ways that they could have implemented a system like this wrong.
I called Will Greenberg and Lena Cohen. They're technologists at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a digital rights nonprofit. And they gave me their theories about what might be happening.
One theory was that David's Bridal simply deleted the wrong thing.
Maybe customer service only deleted the customer profiles, but not the login information.
Another theory was that the login kept working because David's Bridal still had it stored in a backup, a periodic snapshot of user data that is stored so that an account can be recovered in an emergency.
Maybe they successfully deleted the account, but then for some other reason they had to roll back to an old backup, and then your friend's account was restored, basically.
David's Bridal might just not have the resources to go through and delete all of those backups.
After I get a account deletion request, I could go into each of those backup snapshots and remove the data from that, but that would be an extremely involved process. A company like Google or Meta, I could imagine that they would have the staff and procedure to do that, but for a smaller company, that might be outside of their scope.
But even when companies have the resources to totally purge backups, it doesn't mean they do it right away. One industry report found that YouTube, Discord, and several Meta platforms all retain user data for 6 months after account deletion. And even when our data is deleted, I learned that it's hard to know if that's a hard delete, where a row in a database is actually removed, or a soft delete, where that row is simply marked as deleted, which may prevent login but will keep other records intact. I was surprised to learn that deleting doesn't always mean deleting the way that I thought it did. And I started to doubt whether what we were trying to do here was even possible. Kim is trying to practice digital hygiene, but if it's hard to know for sure what delete actually means behind the scenes, is that even worth trying? Will and Lena told me that regardless of why this account was so hard to delete, companies are rarely incentivized to make it easy. In fact, it's the opposite.
When privacy laws are weak, companies don't have an incentive to invest in their customers' privacy and security.
User data is a pretty pernicious thing. It can be very easy to collect and very hard to fully purge from an online service. And as long as you're holding on to it, then there will almost always be an incentive to try and sell it or for people to come and buy it.
What if, even if we could delete the account, David's Bridal had already sold the information to someone else? Kim had wondered if that might be connected to the reason the account was hard to delete.
Like, my best guess is they're selling my email, but like, how many times can you sell? Like, I don't understand enough about how selling data works that this would be beneficial to them.
This would make sense. For any business in the weddings industry, knowing who's shopping at David's Bridal is valuable information. Someone shopping for a wedding dress might soon be shopping for wedding photographers and makeup artists and caterers and venue organizers. Those businesses will want to advertise to those potential customers and might be willing to pay for their contact information. And as I kept talking about this to more people, I learned I already knew someone who'd done exactly that.
I'm just gonna start rolling on this. Cool.
I was a wedding filmmaker. That was my first business. So I go to this guy's marketing class, and the first thing he says is, you have to buy leads. These giant spreadsheets with emails and names of people who are thought to be engaged. So I purchased these lists, including a database from David's Bridal.
Once a business has that information, they can take a lot of liberties with what they do with it.
And then I took that and I put it into Google Marketing, and it helped target my ads. And we made a Google
Because you could target
search ad.
those specific people.
You can target those people and people like those people.
But they could also just directly email people. Reddit is full of countless stories from David's Bridal customers who received marketing emails from a multi-level marketing cosmetics company right after registering with David's Bridal. Understandably, they weren't happy about it. But as I looked into the fine print, I learned that David's Bridal reserves a lot of rights to do all of this. On its privacy rights page, David's Bridal says that unless you elect or instruct us otherwise, David's Bridal may share, sell, trade, or rent your personal information to other third parties for direct marketing purposes. And the company maintains the right to keep your data for 4 years, or potentially even longer. And if you log in at any time during that 4-year period, the retention policy will reset for another 4 years. I've never read much of the fine print on anything, and I wanted to know if it was normal for a company to be taking this many liberties with their users' information.
People know that Facebook sells data. That's very intuitive, but the fact is that a lot of brick and mortar stores that we shop at that are not as obviously in the data sales business have in recent years opened up a side business selling access to people's data that they happen to have access to in the course of delivering their normal services.
That's RJ Cross, a data privacy researcher. And those side businesses she's talking about are called retail media networks.
You have companies like CVS and Walgreens, Macy's, Kroger's, Albertsons, Home Depot, Best Buy. So a lot of companies that you're interacting with are doing this now.
The data that these stores collect is valuable because it's considered higher quality than what advertisers are usually working with. The ads that follow you around the internet are often based on data aggregated by data brokers, businesses that collect personal information from services you interact with and sell them to advertisers and other buyers. Because data brokers collect information from services and not directly from people, that information is considered third-party data. Retail media networks, on the other hand, sell advertisers first-party data that their customers directly provided.
And that's kind of the pitch, is this is not shadowy third-party data brokers that are, installing tracking technology. This is David's Bridal. People know who we are. They set up an appointment with us. So it's this idea that it's more permissioned data, that it's more okay to do things with it.
That shift from third-party data to first-party data happened in part because sources of third-party data were slowly cut off. Some browsers phased out third-party tracking cookies, and new data protection regulations took effect in Europe and California. But when you look at a timeline of when major companies launched their retail media networks, you can see a clear spike in 2021. And that has a lot to do with this little pop-up.
Apple just came out with a new iPhone update, and Facebook is not too happy about it.
The new operating system will give users the chance to opt out of tracking.
It gives you a lot more control over how much information gets shared.
In 2021, you have Apple introduces that Ask App Not to Track feature.
We believe tracking should always be transparent and under your control.
And that was a huge deal in the target advertising world because your iPhone was a portal to so much information about you, and so many companies were using it to collect things like your geolocation information.
Ask App Not to Track lets users choose whether an app can access their iPhone's IDFA. That's a unique ID number on every iPhone specifically for advertisers. As different apps gather your information and sell it to advertisers, your IDFA allows data brokers to link all of that information together into a single profile about you. If you decline to share your IDFA,
that cuts off a bunch of the data that's flowing into this ecosystem. So about 2021-ish, you have this real fear in the target advertising industry, where are we going to get this data? And that's when brick and mortar stores who've had these long-standing relationships with customers, they have your email address, they know what you've shopped and when, they're like, oh, we actually have a lot of information. If you want to know about our customers, we've got that information and you can come to us for it.
RJ has called retail media networks the new data brokers. After talking to RJ, the idea of deleting this one account and trying to figure out what David's Bridal might have done with the information on it felt really small compared to the formalized customer data selling happening at so many of the businesses that we regularly visit. But at the very end of making this video, I got one final piece of news that finally felt like an answer worth telling Kim.
Good. Can you hear me okay? So I sent them all these emails. They never responded. But on June 8th, they posted this update. They say, we take customer privacy and the handling of personal information seriously. Customers have always had a way to request deletion of their accounts, and we recently identified and corrected a technical issue that prevented a request from completing as intended. Clearly there was something wrong. There was like a technical issue in that workflow that you discovered and that allegedly they have fixed.
The timing of this feels like it had something to do with you.
No, this is like, I'm confident this is a response to us.
Yeah, because who else is doing this? It really does come down to nobody else is paying attention to their David's Bridal account. Nobody's doing it.
The update included instructions on how to request to delete your account over email. So
I can send one right now.
Kim sent an email. Deletion wasn't immediate. David's Bridal would still have to verify her identity and make sure that there weren't any legal retention obligations. But after that, they would execute deletion across their internal systems and notify relevant third-party vendors.
We just gotta keep our eyes on that, and hopefully in the next week or two, this account won't work anymore.
Below the update about account deletion, there was a whole new section that disclosed what kinds of personal information David's Bridal collects and how it collects it. There are the typical identifiers, but also physical characteristics or description, financial information, browsing history, physical location, and inferences from personal information like a person's preferences, psychological trends, predispositions, and behavior. And once it's in their hands, that information is only as safe as they're able to keep it. In 2024, David's Bridal was hit by 2 ransomware attacks that stole employee and customer data. There are now 2 class action lawsuits over the company's failure to protect that data.
If I can walk into a David's Bridal and try on whatever wedding dresses and decide I don't like them, I have the choice to not buy them. But I don't have the choice anymore to take back my information. Does it even matter if I delete an account?
I think the answer is yes, but it's in absence of any laws that really back us up, we don't really have much of a way of knowing for sure what's happening behind the scenes. And that kind of makes the whole process feel useless.
Some states have regulations that let you request that a company delete your data,
But New York, where both Kim and I live, doesn't. So much of our conversations about this have been like, why does this story matter? This feels so silly, but I feel like that's exactly it. They benefit from not making it easy. There's no incentive for them to, try to make this better and easier. It's just an inconvenience for us that's convenient for them, basically, So, can we delete Kim's account on David's Bridal? We now know that at the very beginning, the answer was no, allegedly because a technical issue prevented deletion requests from actually deleting anything. In the meantime, David's Bridal sold pretty intimate information about its customers to third parties and data brokers. It is far from the only company doing that, but it's doing it in combination with an account system that is unusually sticky.
I cannot emphasize enough how little I care that this account still exists, but the question of why will bother me.
As of publishing this video, Kim's still waiting for an update from David's Bridal. Maybe the company did fix this technical issue, and maybe Kim can delete her account. But as of right now, we're still waiting for proof. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more internet mysteries and get a first look at what I'm working on next, you should come join me over on newpress.com. Newpress is a platform I help launch with other journalists like Johnny Harris and Max Fisher to help bring you closer to our reporting and help support our work. You'll help crowdsource story ideas and see some of the tools I use in my reporting and watch episodes of Tunnel Vision like this one early and ad-free before they publish anywhere else. If you're ready to join me, head to newpress.com/begin. I'll see you there.